Business Takeout presents
The Cocktale Hour with L.A. Wade.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl. This is L.A. Wade, and I am here on the Cocktale Hour with none other than the legendary John Bronski. I will introduce him in a moment. Right now, I want to give a shout out to Business Takeout, who inspires Black wealth and Black entrepreneurship. And that's what we want to do here today in the film world. We're jumping into the film world, a little bit in the hip hop world. This is a man who, he's very humble, and not enough people talk about. We were just talking about different restaurants in Toronto that were really well known back in the day, but we don't have a space to talk about the things that kind of help build the mythology of who we are as a community. And I can't speak about the hip hop community or the film industry in Toronto without talking about the legendary John Bronski. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, LA. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So I typically like to start these interviews not by giving your, everything that's about who you are, so that people, although that would be a real bringing people to the yard kind of conversation when they know that you've worked with, Director X and Rihanna and all of these different people, Sean Paul. But we'll get to it. It's a discovery. It's kind of like, this is the cocktail hour. We got to go slow. First base, then second base. Maybe you linger back on first base. We don't just hit the home run with a grand slam out of the park in the first conversation, because then they would have no respect for you. So in the spirit of going slow, where did you begin and how did you get to this time of your career?
Where did I begin? I guess technically when I came back from Jamaica in '96. So when after I did the Sean Paul thing the first time, and then Beanie Man thing, I was trying to get out the music industry, and Jamaica had sucked me back into the music industry. So when I came back to Toronto, I ran into an old friend of mine, a guy by the name of Michael Hairlade, who ran Black Walk, which was a video film production company, and he hired me as the director of marketing because he wanted someone that knew the record companies, but also had an understanding of film production.
Interesting.
So I became,
what we're going to do right now.
So about a year later, well, that was one of the first things we ever did was Shaggy, It Wasn't Me. And then
I was on that
that's when I
video
really understand the whole,
I thought, okay, so
yeah, we had a lot of
do
ladies
the
in
whole
that shoot.
how I know John thing. Like, I know John Bronski. I met him, what I thought was the Tara Chase video. So that was before Shaggy.
Yeah, it's kind of a blur. Yeah, so you got to think the '90s for me is kind of a blur. It's kind of a Wu-Tang X weed smoke blur, right, for me. But yeah, so I did the Tara Chase thing. I think that was '99, 2000, because when I did the Tara Chase, I had partially started going out to Finland at that point. I remember after shooting the video that you were at, I had left the next day to go to Finland. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so
what
we're going to do right here is go back, John.
Yeah.
This is not helping anybody follow the linear ways of your life. You get ready for a temporal journey, people. This is not going to be something that is linear by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But in your early years, for example, you were born in London, and then you went to the Bronx.
Yeah.
So I know that there was a hip hop show called a b-boy battle called Bronx to Brixton back in the day. You had nothing to do with that, but you did go from Brixton to the Bronx, not necessarily Brixton.
Not Brixton, from Tottenham to the Bronx.
Tottenham. Is that your favorite football team? Football club?
Well, we have two. I tell people all the time, Tottenham. Can you imagine if Scarborough had two NHL hockey teams?
There would be some fights. It'd be like the Subway Series of the Yankees and the Mets.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. I don't think there's any other professional sports team in the world that has two professional sports teams in the same neighborhood.
Okay, so you went from Tottenham how did you end up going to the Bronx? Who in your family was like, we out of here?
What it was that my parents. So I lived with my grandmother in England, and my parents had come to Toronto first, and then to get to Toronto, everyone goes to New York first. This is the early 70s, right? So it wasn't like you flew from London to Toronto. Really wasn't on the map back then in terms of flight locality, if you know what I mean. It's not like today. So you had to go to New York first and then Toronto. And then I got an auntie, and that's my biggest New York connection is Aunt Mabel, her and Uncle Eddie. And I'm Jamaican, so we got Jamaican. I'm Jamaican and Guyanese. So my mom's Jamaican, so these are my mom's relatives. And Aunt Mabel was like a big influence on my Bronx development because I got sent back to her every summer, right up until I was in high school. And then when I became a DJ and writing for Street Sounds, that's who I moved in with.
Oh, wow. So when you
so
give
it just
me a
worked out.
Bronx
It was fortunate.
like, what is your
Bronx tale?
Yeah, give me a Bronx tale of like how you fell in love with hip hop, because like the Bronx is where it started, right? So you were.
Yeah, well, there was these older guys. I remember one of the first Bronx River parties I went to, like an older guy in the neighborhood. Like, and this was the summer of 76, 77. So I was a huge baseball fan too. Like Willie Randolph used to play first base. Yeah.
You know I'm a baseball
I mean, remember Reggie Jackson, the summer of 44?
Wow.
Remember that? So, and all that, right? And then I tell people, so like I remember I tell people, you're not a Bronx, you've never lived in the Bronx until you experienced the blackout in 76, Reggie Jackson 44, or the Son of Sam.
The Son of Sam, you lived through all that. Good thing you weren't some girl that he wanted to come take. You'd be definitely one that he would grab, I'm sure.
Oh, I still talk to you. Like, I still got a friend, Lunchila Rodriguez. What's up, baby? She still lives in the Bronx.
Let's go. And that's the thing about you is that your career spans so many years and you've made so many connections. And unfortunately, you've seen a lot of people rise and fall and actually turn over they've transitioned. And almost every other day, I feel like I'm on your page and I see that you're shouting out somebody who touched your life that you've had to let go of. Can you speak a little bit about grief?
What do you want to talk about?
Okay, well, how about we start with one of the words that I have, because I like to talk to people and give them a word and then whatever comes up for them, words or sayings. And one of the words that I'm thinking about in relation to our topic right now is source of undying love.
Okay.
And the source of undying love that I'm talking about is on my shirt right here. You know this person. You see that person right there?
Oh, I see. Yeah, Miss Simba, that was a big thing for me. That's a huge thing for me. Like, it's huge. I've had a lot of friends die. I've had friends that were murdered. But Miss Simba, this was different. And it's different. The thing about the Masimba thing is like I was talking about my analogy of death. Okay, so I got into a bad accident at work. I got thrown from a vehicle. And I woke up in the hospital, and Masimba came to visit me. And we had talked about, say, hey, man, I need you to handle this for me. And because I have a very precarious life. So the joke was that Masimba, he doesn't even drink, doesn't smoke, he drinks cranberry juice. So I said, look, man, you're going to live a long life. So if anything happened to me, Masimba, I need you to take care of A, B, C, or D. It's like, yeah. But then he goes, but if anything happens to me, I want you to take care of A, B, C, or D. I'm like, dude, nothing's going to happen to you.
Yeah. So how do you process it? Because it's not absent from who we are. It's connected to everything that we do and how we move when people impact us in those ways.
Yeah, the thing about death, again, is you can't let it sit around. You got to move on really fast, really quick, because death has a tendency to hang out for a long time if you let it.
Yeah.
So you got to move on and move on, like ruthlessly move on. And I really stress the ruthlessness because you're dealing with death. It's not like, hey, death, how you doing? No, it's death. Let's go. Let's get the fuck out. You got to be ruthless and cold.
Yeah.
So I don't think people understand that, and I experienced that during Miss Simba's death because I don't think people quite understood the juxtaposed situation that was happening.
Yeah, what you're saying is actually it's sociologically proven that to get back into a routine, to keep moving forward is integral in helping you overcome the grief or the trauma that you've experienced.
I've had a lot of death. I've experienced a lot of death.
I know. I've seen it on your page.
I've got, I feel like I'm one of the last of the Mohicans sometimes. And,
in a sense.
Yeah. So I Miss Simba, I ain't gonna lie, that fucked me up, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, but that's okay because to your own advice, you try to keep moving forward. And, depending on how close people are to you, it may be harder than other times, but for the most part, putting one foot in front of the other is the best way to try to move forward. So, yeah. So, I mean, you coming from the Bronx to Toronto, you obviously laid down roots here and made really substantial relationships like the one with Son of Soul. Who else? Yeah. Like, talk to me about that transition from Bronx to Toronto.
It was a slow one. I went to Don Bosco High School. I grew up in Rexdale.
All right. Big up to Rexdale.
And I currently live in Parkdale. So I'm a city dude. I like my neighborhood to be noisy and loud. It's funny when I go to Jamaica and in the countryside, I can't sleep. It's way too quiet. You know what I mean? I can't. It's just too, it's just too surreal. Like I don't hear anything. I got to hear like cars going by, fire trucks, people yelling. If I don't hear that, I can't.
That's where you feel most at home with the yelling and the screaming. Why are you frozen? Every now and then you freeze, so I'm gonna have to catch up with you sometimes.
Yeah, refresh.
You're moving now. So you went to Don Bosco, then you eventually you end up at the Ontario College of Art and Design.
What happened was that I went to Humber first, and I got kicked out of radio. I knew too much. I got caught doing other people's assignments on radio. Yeah.
You got caught doing other people's what?
I had a very Animal House production assignments.
Oh, you weren't supposed to do that. But you obviously had a love.
Yeah, we had it was a hustle. What it was that, what happened was that it was easy for me to do radio production assignments, just like, oh yeah, there you go.
Can you explain what a radio
really fast. That sounds
assignment
really good.
even is?
They would so when you go to radio in the editing class, they actually to record like a Tim Hortons commercial and then edit out the name Tim Hortons. So you have to splice out all the Tim Hortons and splice it back, and it would have to sound smooth. So when you play it back, it's like hey la 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 la, and there's no Tim Hortons ever. So you have no identifying mark. You don't know what commercial it is.
Interesting. This is what were you taking at Humber?
At first, I was taking radio. And then I ended up I decided, okay, let me take something I really don't know too much about, and that was film and television.
And you didn't know a lot about it then. So that's a long time ago. Because
that was 91,
yeah. From there, you end up going to the Ontario Schooling of Art and Design, right?
That happened later. What happened was that I ended up,
Tell me, take me on a journey.
What happened was that when I got into film TV at Humber, I was kind of ahead of the curve already. It just made, that makes sense. And if we're going to shoot, we better practically formulate shots so that we scale down to a basic shot, which is what we do now, from wide to medium to close up, right? So it's kind of like voguing. We go like this to this to this, right?
Is there a system to when you
I just did it. It goes wide, medium, tight.
This is like the formula for filming.
Yeah. But you never go this way. You never go small, wide, medium. You always go wide first, get all your action in, all the cars moving and working parts, the helicopters, birds flying, people crossing the street, right? Then as you shrink it down, you minimize all that background action, you just have your actors. It's also cost development too. The longer you keep all the cars, trucks, and buses moving, you got to pay for all that.
Yeah.
So you have to scale it down to the point. Yeah, and that's as an AD, and when you schedule a shoot, that's what you think about. Then you have to sit down with the director and explain to him, look, you got half an afternoon to get this car crash. The rest of the time we're going to spend inside the car getting to talking.
This is terrible. Every time you say something, it's starting to like break up, and I'm thinking, this is the good stuff right here. Somebody doesn't want us to know. Okay.
So
I was going to ask. That's okay. Yeah, hopefully you will repeat it because I have questions about that. But that big wide shot, that would be the B-roll footage? Is that where you would see a lot of the B-roll footage that you see, like that real popular shot of going over New York City?
No, that is B-roll footage. But what I'm talking about is like when you see the intro to a film and then it swings down into the actors at the same time. So you have the wide establishing, which is kind of what you're talking about. There's two types as well, but also B-roll is something else. B-roll is like just pickup shots of cars going, people, arbitrary people going through the day, like people lined up to get on the subway, people at the bank, people at the grocery store, cars in traffic. That's B-roll. But then your setup establishing shot is it comes out of the sky, you see the church and it pans down, and then you see the actors in the church.
Ah, got it. That was good. You broke that down smoothly. And would you say that that's what you were learning at Humber at the time?
Yeah, it's kind of, but I'm also like, I watched a lot of movies as a kid. I grew up in a movie cinema. In high school, I worked at Skyway 6, which is the movie cinema at Dixon Road in the airport. So It's one of my first high school jobs. I was an usher, and yeah, I just studied filmmaking by paying attention, I guess.
Yes, you're very.
And then it makes sense, and then.
Yeah, you can observe things very clearly. You're always thinking, is what I can sense when the few times that I've met you in person, and you're always assessing what needs to be done. Hi, Mike Truth. Somebody from the Bronx is online because I told them that you're from the Bronx, and so they have no, they have no concept of who John Bronski is. I was like, do you know John Bronski? And these are younger people that don't know the legacy. So I'm just going to go back to hip hop for a second. CBC referred to you as the godfather of Canadian hip hop. Why would they call you that?
It's I guess it's a fitting term. People are like, oh, what about Ron Nelson? I would say Ron Nelson is the father of Canadian hip hop. You know what I mean? But to be the godfather, I'm a hustler, so I get it. So it's like, if you needed to get anything done, yeah, you came to John Brown. You get it?
Would you say that you learned that in the Bronx, no doubt.
Yeah, it's Godfather in the sense of like, it's like Luca Brasi, like, yeah, what can I do for you now? You know what I mean? It's like that. It was kind of like that.
Mike True says, I'm here to educate myself humbly. So that this is good. This is good. So in relation to, hip hop, you were a music journalist and you were a DJ, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where the Godfather comes in too. And that's the defining note between me and Ron Nelson and a lot of other people too. I was one of the first guys to work at a record company.
Okay.
And that's where I think the Godfather, like, yeah, if you got the ability to give you a record deal, yeah, that makes you a Godfather. And I think that's what it was too, that I was one of the first guys to give you the inside look at how record companies perceive black music as early as 1991.
Wow. So you were there prior to the Craig Mannix, the Thrust.
Well,
Jonathan Ramos.
If you ask Craig Mannix, he'll tell you John Bronski is the guy that got me to where I got to that.
Wow. So just so people who don't know, who is Craig Mannix-Fields really quick, just so that we have context.
Craig is the VP of marketing at Sony Universal now.
Right. And when you met him, he was
a 19-year-old doorman at the Black Bull on Queen Street.
Amazing.
He was Thrust's homeboy, yeah. And that was the thing about Craig. He was a heavy metal guy when I first met him.
No way. I just watched David Cox. He did a whole thing on that. Yeah, that was dope. Big up to Click. Okay, so then you started writing the journalism aspect. I feel like if you are hip hop in Toronto, these things go together. If you're not doing just journalism, you're definitely a DJ.
It was definitely an era. What happened was I worked at a record store. So everyone knows about Play-Doh Records, right? The record store, Play-D Records.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So before Play-D Records, there was Carnival Records, and before that, there was Star Sounds.
Star Sound.
Yeah, and that was at 427 Yonge Street, just south of College. And we're going back, like, opened in 1978, 79. And I started working there on my 22nd birthday. I got the job in 1987.
Wow.
And it was kind of like the place where what Play-D is now. So, but it was the place. So back in 87, 88, we had like all the DJs, like Twilight Zone, Chris Shepard, Headley Jones, guys from Sif from Y, all these big DJs coming in because we were the only place selling like 12-inch records. And we had all the latest like from England. So what Play-D is known for now, Star Sounds was the first. And the guy that ran it was named Sefer Azari. He's an Iranian dude, a disco guy, loved disco. And New York City had this magazine called Dance Music Report, and it was like a tip sheet on dance music at the time. And you got to think, dance music, 1985, knowing like house music and things like that, it's not how it is now. And this is what's going to happen. So what happened was Zephyr decided to, hey, you know what? I want to start a magazine. So it'd be a Sports Illustrated instead of writers. We get the athletes to write about it. So it'd be a dance music magazine written by DJs.
Oh,
and that was Street Sounds. Yeah. So instead of hiring writers, he went and got DJs who couldn't write and made sure they got someone to spell check their shit. And that's what became Street Sounds. Yeah, but what happened was, so the idea of that spread, and that's how you end up getting the Source, Vibe, and all these magazines later, because they realized, we're not going to hire just writers, we're going to hire people directly involved, and that's what you see now. You don't see writers talk about, well, here's my analogy. You don't see that no more.
No, it's definitely the people in the streets, the artists, the DJs, the fans almost. These are fans. Yeah, and I want to say one of the words I want to give to you is J Dilla. What comes up for you when I say the word J Dilla?
Oh, Slum Village?
Yeah, that's the connection.
Yeah.
No words come up for you? Nothing comes up for you when you talk about J Dilla? Because I feel like Toronto and Slum Village in particular, I feel like Toronto had an understanding of Slum Village that a lot of other cities did not have. Why do you think that is?
I think it goes back to, did I tag you on what RC was in that podcast at the Red Bull?
You tagged me a while ago about that.
About how Slum Village changed the way guys rapped, especially in Toronto.
Totally. We'll talk about it. Because a lot of people that aren't privy to our DMs.
Well, it just the way RC did it was just so funny because like Toronto guys, it's true. So Toronto, late 99, you know what I mean? So everything was spherical, miracle, spiritual, miracle, hope and miracle, you know what I mean? Everything was all like that. Yeah. And Slum Village came out with, hey.
Right? Hold it right down.
Which is like,
you know what they did too? They let the music kind of speak for them, and they were the accompaniment to the music versus the music being the accompaniment to them.
Well, that's what I explained. Okay, so when I did the Cold Front album, which is Canada's first hip hop compilation album.
Yeah.
An Attic, and I did that in 1991.
And that was through a record label.
Yeah, with Attic, that was huge. It was huge. It was huge.
Yeah.
That's where I got the main source. I got that was my first claim to fame. I got a main source track on my album that's not even on the main source album.
Damn! Can you get that today to this day?
That's why I put it on the Cold Front. That's why the Cold Front album is a collector's item now, because it's got the only main source track that's not on the main source album.
Do you make money off of that? What do you want to tell the people who put?
I wish. I wish. What
was the lesson you learned from that experience that you could pass on to the youngins?
So this also goes back to the Sean. It goes back to the Simma who's got the keys to my demo. I'll give you a personal antidote. I should have taken out publishing on that.
Yeah, right. So how would it have worked back then?
Easy, but what it was that, and this is what I try to explain to people, and this is why I stress the whole union thing for film too. Now you got what it was like. I was hanging out in the studio in Jamaica with the old roommate. It was just one of those organic situations where we were making up beats, and one thing led to another, and and then we got a hit record.
Right.
So
there's a danger in friggin' vibing with people in a studio when paperwork is not signed.
Yeah, and I naively thought that I would be looked after in terms of like my involvement. I partially was like it came later, but if I had done it properly, my financial situation would have been very different. Yes. Right.
But I wonder how can we navigate that now? Like, people don't want to, brush people the wrong way and ask for the paperwork up front. Like, if I have a film idea,
you have to ask the paperwork up front. You have to. I mean, that's partially why I'm John Bronski. People don't like the fact that, hello, can we talk about the paperwork? You have to now. You have to be, again, I stress the term ruthlessness. It's very important. I don't think people are ruthless enough in terms of our professional outlook and in terms of our career.
Right.
So, and Black folks too, I think we take it for granted sometimes. So there's a certain level of ruthlessness that is needed for success.
There's a certain level of ruthlessness that's needed for success. Those are words of wisdom right there. Wow. Greetings, Dr. Vibe. I see you popped into the room. Bless up yourself. He is blessed and highly favored. This is how he introduces himself. I am feeling the same today because I am speaking with the legendary John Bronski, the godfather of Canadian hip hop. So moving along into because you're like a hip hop historian, and I have this ever since I reconnected with you after dropping some of those old school videos that I didn't even remember that I was a part of. Talking to you was like going on this journey, this fantastic journey through hip hop. And it does list on your things that you're a hip hop historian, if nothing else. And I think that is true to every word. You have been around, you're spanning all of these decades of hip hop music and its evolution. How have you evolved with the music?
I got older.
Okay. That's time correct. But evolution requires some changes that are within. It's almost like an elixir.
I just think, I've always got it.
John Bronski is a legend. Much respect, King.
Someone said that?
Yes, someone said that about you, Dr. Vibe.
Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Appreciate it. See, they don't let me out much, as you can see. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think, and that was one of the number one reasons why I wanted to interview you.
Got what your question?
Yeah, go ahead. It's just it keeps breaking up on us, so it's breaking up the vibe, Dr. Vibe. Okay, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything.
You weren't saying anything. We're talking about you being a hip hop historian and your own evolution,
Right.
the internal elixir.
I guess I guess I had very firm hip hop opinions that I've stuck to, that are relevant to today in terms of hip hop, especially Toronto's development in hip hop. I was going to mention the fact that, back to the Slum Village joke, is that you're right. I mean, it took a long time for Toronto guys to figure it out, and in terms of their rhyme style. And then I knew, when I did the Cold Front, I knew we weren't there yet in '91.
Right.
Which made A&R and the Cold Front kind of hard, because I really didn't want to fall victim to a lot of silly shit. So I really had to search hard for guys who could rhyme, but at least have something to say in their rhyme.
Right. So who was
all this metaphorical shit, spherical? I was like, you gotta think, I was already thinking, trying not to do that in '91.
So who stood out for you back then?
No one.
No one. Not one artist caught your eye back in those days.
Oh, who stood out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, tons. But like, Sweet Ebony, he would be in the primary. But again, that's how ahead of the curve I was. I tell everyone, Sweet Ebony was the first MC murderer. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Shortly after we had put him onto the Cold Front, and I warned him. I said, dude, don't do anything stupid. And
when you think about that evolution from Toronto to becoming the Six, as CBC references in their interview, what comes up for you when you think about the Six versus the hip hop that you, that hip hop baby that was learning how to walk in Toronto?
Well, I think now, yeah, I think Toronto's always had that edge. I remember, like, I used to be backstage manager for a lot of Ron Nelson shows and stuff, and I guess because of my radio show, the Master Plan show, and because of all the hip hop radio we had at the time between Power Move, Ron Nelson, Mastermind, and all the other kids playing all the music, what happened was Toronto was a very educated populace in terms of hip hop. So cats would come here to do a show. I'll give you an example of this. So Das Effects came to do a show, and Toronto like, yo, freestyle. We want to hear freestyle. We want to hear freestyle.
Oh, so, I was there for that. I know.
Were you there for that?
Yeah, but tell the story.
Then they try to do a track off the album. Here's our freestyle, right? And then they try to do the track, and the whole audience started rapping along with them.
I remember that, yo. That's crazy.
And they came off the stage, and I said, I warned y'all.
It's so true. We are, if nothing else, educated about hip hop fully.
So I used to tell people, I don't know if you heard the term, like, Toronto is New York's sixth borough. Have you heard that before?
Yes, I heard that before.
And one of the things I used to tell, like, a lot of production managers and artist management, label managers back in the day, like small independent record labels, and Ron Nelson loved this too, is that if you want to get it, it's easy. So you tell the record label, yo, you want to test your artist on a tour? Bring them to Toronto. It's like coming to another country, right? With a very strong hip hop community.
Right. Yeah.
We got all the radio stations and everything. And if you want to get them ready for their bigger assignment as they get popular, bring them to Toronto. And that's why we got a lot of acts that way. We were fortunate to get acts because of that. We were the testing ground for a lot of new, young, independent labels, like for the Tommy Boys, the Def Jams, all those little labels that no one knew back in the day.
It's true. Yeah, it's true, because when I think about it, I've seen so many amazing concerts here in Toronto before people bus. Like, I remember being at, I can't remember that place on Queen Street, the Bamboo, it was called the Bamboo back then. And I saw Eric Benet. Like, I was standing right here, and like, he's right in front of me playing and singing his songs. And I'm just like, this guy's really friggin' dope. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, and it's like, it's Eric Benet. Like, you know what I mean? There was a lot of those kind of things that happened here in Toronto. So I didn't know you were part of all of that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I paid the rent for the longest time. I was, there's a term now I heard that someone goes, oh, yeah, you were that before even the term. What is the term? It's, oh, I forgot the, like, scene something.
I don't know.
Like, yeah, so I made a living off of being ahead of the curve. So people would hire me to be at the show, to bring the artist to the show, to interview that someone, or to bring, I used to be the fixer. So my job, I used to fix much music. So my job was to get much music, that exclusive Beastie Boy interview that no one could ever get because the Beastie Boys weren't doing interviews, but because John Bronski said, hey, let's do the much music thing. And then, you see what I'm saying? So that's where the Godfather also doesn't say, that's the Godfather thing playing out again. Because I could, you know, because I knew artists, and because of the whole label thing. And so people in New York knew who I was. So it was easy for me to go, can we talk?
Yeah. Well, let's connect you to the music to the film world and tell your story about Sean Paul.
Well, that's a funny one. I met Sean in '96 when I tried to get out the music industry. So Jeremy Harding used to be my roommate here in Toronto, and I met him in Montreal. So Jeremy used to be the John Bronski of Montreal, DJ Genius, and he did a Saturday night rap show on CKUT in Montreal. But he was a bourgeoisie Jamaican dude. His dad, Mr. Harding, Ozzy Harding, was the ambassador of Jamaica at the UN.
Wow.
So he's a big holy pololi from Jamaica. So Jeremy went back to Jamaica and he started the studio. And he's like, yo, John B, come down and do a ting, man. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to do the record company. And I really wanted to get out the music industry to get into film. That was the thing. I really wanted to do film. The whole DJ record company thing was a hobby that got out of control. It really got out of control.
Out of control? It created so much. It had such latent effects.
Well, that's why. And then this story with the Sean Paul is an example of how I'm really not trying to do this. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it happened. I'm like, oh God.
But what happened? Tell us.
So Jeremy comes from money, and his parents had set him up in the studio up in Jacks Hill in uptown Kingston, Jamaica, on Barcan, you know about them place, see?
I heard
and can you imagine me moving down there, and I was the studio boss, and Jeremy and I had worked before, and we had a good working relationship, so I did my John Bronski thing, and I kicked everyone out the studio, and I cussed and I swore. And I made Jeremy sit down in the studio, and we came up with this Simmer beat. And various people had voiced on it, but it wasn't until Beanie Man came in and did Simmer. And the whole line, too, is because Jeremy used to borrow his parents' car. And it was one of those old English Mercedes, diesel, where you had to turn the button and it lit up, then you turn the engine over. Right? And that was the thing. He can never find the keys for the car. So that was why Simmer, who's got the keys for the Bimmer? And that was the joke. That wasn't even Beanie Man. That was Jeremy's line. So, and that was the thing. I used to I don't think people understand like old Jamaican cars very well. So that was a tribute to that.
That's crazy. But there was a story about you and Sean Paul, and there was a car involved as well, I think.
Oh yeah. So what it was, like, Sean Paul and I used to play basketball. I'm a basketball freak. I'm good at playing ball, and Sean used to drive me around. And then in between these pickup games, we would drop by these studios. And one of the places was Arrows, which is like the big dub cutting facility. If you want your dub plate made, so when you go to the party and you hear like Ninja Man on the next dub plate, it was made at Arrows in Kingston, Jamaica. And it's still there. And for $300, you get a dub plate made. And so Sean was in there listening. Yeah, like, he go to Arrows, like everyone's there. Beanie Man, Cutty Ranks, like you name Coca T, you name a man. They're all hanging out at Arrows.
Right.
Because guys from DJs from all Japan, Germany, Russia, all come with their 300 euros, whatever. Look, Coca T, like who's ever available is going to get a dub plate made. So that's why all the men them hang out. So Sean Paul was there, and he took me in, and he heard a song once. And on the way out of it, we were going to another basketball game. You know, John B, this is how I would do the song. And he did while driving 5-speed van, he did the song.
What?
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, man, this guy's got something here.
So what'd you do with that?
I told Jeremy. And then we did, because they had one song out called Baby Girl, Don't Cry No More. No. Right? And then and then Sean did Infiltrate on the Simma beat.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
and
you kind of discovered Sean Paul.
In a word sort of way. But honestly, well, back to the whole Canadian. So back to the Godfather thing again. So there's a guy I used to hang out with by the name of Morgan Lieberthal back in the day. He was part of the Inner Crew, me, Big C, and
is that what they call Mr. Morgan?
Yeah. And remember that, and there used to be a gentleman by the name of Saul Guy.
Oh, I heard of Saul Guy. I know Saul Guy.
So these are all guys. So I was the first big record company guy, then Big C, and then I met Saul through through Sony. I used to do the marketing for the Rascals. So I guess I was Saul's label manager at first, so that's how I met Saul. And Morgan was just like a downtown cat. He's just hang out with us at the parties.
Crazy.
All these guys had great aptitude for the record company stuff, and I thought, better them than me, because I can't do this alone. And that was my whole thing too. Like that was the thing I was noted for. Like I used to share the wealth.
Yes, very giving. I think you're breaking up again. Oh man, guys, you have no idea that this. Okay, here he's back.
I stopped talking. I stopped as soon as it went. I stopped talking.
Okay, good. Yeah, you are a legend for sure. Your career spans 25 years, but I want to transition into film and what you really have come to really love. And how I met you was through you doing film work through videos. So some of your favorite projects over the years, what are some of the learnings and greatest regrets you've had over the years? And we are not sponsored by McDonald's, but I hope that tasted really good.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I used to take things very personally, and then I was working on A Raisin in the Sun with also like Felicia Rashad, Mrs. Cosby, and Puff Daddy, and we were doing a scene, and this is like the height of Puff Daddy. This is like 2007, right? Mm-hmm. And he brought a cell phone on set, and it kept on going off, and he kept on taking personal calls while we were rolling.
Puff Daddy.
And yeah, I shouldn't even be talking about this. Just realize what I'm doing.
Okay, don't talk about it.
Well, I might as well finish it now. So what happened was that I was getting annoyed, and I was ready to go over and strangle him. I swear to God, because we would like, "I'll cut," and be like. And he would do like,
no.
And the whole crew's standing around. They got like all the actors and everyone's standing around. And Felicia Rashad sitting there. And I turned to her. I was like, I need someone to give me some encouragement. I'll choke him right now. So I walked to Felicia Rashad. I did. I walked to her and I said, "You want me to do something?" I thought she would like, "Get him down, B." But she was like, No. Let's all be patient now, she said. I was like, yeah, okay. And then I just, and then it stuck with me. And then I called my Felicia Rashad moment where I'm like, no, let's all be patient now. And I use that I still use that to today.
So were you an assistant director or production manager on that?
I was the third assistant director on that.
Okay.
And so that's why, because it was a black show. That was the thing too, like, there are probably more black assistant directors now, probably because of me, but not many. For the longest time, there was 3 of us.
Just 3? Damn. What are some of the skill sets needed to be an assistant director or a third AD?
Thick skin, An ability to see through the bullshit.
Okay.
You know, like people like gaslighting and hearsay and things like that. You can't. That's the first thing you can't take, because you're dealing with other departments, and they're all vastly different. Like the hair and makeup department, which is pretty much what we call the pretty department, right? Those ladies and gentlemen are a lot different from the technical guys who are out there with the wrenches and the crowbars, right? You understand? So your approach needs to be different when you address certain things.
Right.
And then extremely flexible, but also you have to deal with a lot of bullshit. But also there's also a technical side to it as well that I don't think people understand. We do a lot of risk assessment, so we actually have to. I have to take a risk assessment course. I also have my gun permit, so you have to be conscious of all legalities of doing a car crash on a city street. So you have to be familiar with the fire department, the police, EMS, what they do, what their roles are, what the legalities are, what the road codes are, the Highway Act is. So all those take part of what I do, and that comes with my qualifications.
You talk a lot about qualifications.
Pardon me?
And you talk a lot about qualifications and credentials. And when you're talking about things like that, you see how important it would be to have somebody who's in the know about those things.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and that's where people ask me about like this whole thing about the guns on set, and how I have to be qualified when we have a gun on set, and then there's certain checks and balances that we go through that I have to adhere to make sure that everyone else is safe. So
yeah, because people have been shot on set, like for real shot.
Yeah, and I don't know how that happens. So
maybe they weren't qualified.
Well, that, and then a lot of rules were broken. So
wow, that's crazy. So I wanted to make sure that we got to this question about taking me through the vision to the manifestation. If you're a director versus a production manager, your approaches are very different. Your directors are thinking about one thing, production managers are thinking about another. Can you differentiate some of those for me?
A director has the artistic vision, right, which the audience is into, right? And that looks beautiful, la 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 la. The production manager puts a dollar value to that artistic vision.
Oh, okay. So and do you have to go to school for? I mean, you have to go to school for a lot of things, but
it helps. What happens? No, you don't really go to. Well, two things happen. A lot of it you learn on the job, and I try to stress that to people. Like, how'd you go to school for that? How to explain this? A lot of the people that work in the film industry did not go to film school. And what happens is a lot of people who go to film school don't end up where I'm at.
Right. So what happens?
A lot of film school students end up working in television, or they end up being independent filmmakers, or they become documentary filmmakers.
Oh, that's me.
Or they work for the National Film Board.
Yeah, I'm going to be a documentary filmmaker one day, if you are going to continue to guide me. But I'm waiting for my money, because I'm not going to bother until I have my money.
Hurry up. I'm trying to retire. You know what I mean?
Okay, we haven't really done a lot of what I wanted to do, but that's okay, because you warned me. You're like, you want to do this in how long? I want to hear the story, because you just have tons of stories. So it's hard to like pinpoint which ones. But I think that you wrote something on your page about smoking weed with you, and you put ... And it's a story about you smoking weed with Sade. And honest to God, I met her that night. I bumped into her in the back with all of her bodyguards by accident.
Smoking weed with Sade?
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, I owe a lot of my hip hop backstage stories to Ron Nelson, because he had hired me. So Ron, that's the thing. So Ron had gone to film and television as well.
He did?
So Ron had recognized, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I give you a little insight. So me, Dwight Drummond, Ron Nelson, Tony Young, essentially the only black film guys coming out of Toronto, late 80s, early 90s. Like we all were familiar with each other at school. I remember Dwight was a grip on music
Really?
videos before he got into newscasting. Yeah, because he's got those skills, and that's the thing. So it's, you know, you have to develop a certain level of skill set somewhere before you move on, and then people find their niche. So Dwight started out as a grip. He was a technician like everyone else, like I was, everyone else. And if it wasn't for Ron Nelson recognizing my technical skill, and I guess seeing the early AD in me to manage a backstage of a hip hop show with multiple New York City hip hop artists and their entourage,
Right.
I think he recognized an ability that film production recognizes in me now.
That's amazing. In regards to filming, the film industry, talk to me about the Directors Guild of Canada and why that would be important for someone's career.
I would say, the Directors Guild, any film union. I was thinking about that after our prep discussion, how I would word this. I think the best way about joining a union like the Directors Guild or IATSE is that I look for job security, and I'm big on making sure like I am looked after in the job. And in the film world, your time is money because it's not an 8-hour day; it's a 14-hour day, and that doesn't include travel there and back.
Right.
So that's 16 hours usually for some people. Okay, so your time is money. So you want to make sure your time is maximized, and the best way to do that is by joining the union. But a lot of people don't want to join the union because it goes to the qualifications. A lot of people are lazy, so they figure, I'll just do the independent thing and get paid an independent rate. But then you get ripped off in the independent world. And then you have to go ruthlessly track down your money. I'm not about that. I've already been through the hip hop era. I don't need to go looking for my money. I did that.
One of the people watching from Atlanta said, "Show me the money," because you were talking about the difference between the director and the production manager. So I think you have definitely learned from those days of not publishing your music. You've made up for it in the film world.
So that was the thing. So that's why I stress the union, because I get a RSP, I get a health plan, my kid is covered, and now my kid is covered. And now my kid is covered in 2 health plans for 2 of the biggest film unions now. So I'm a rarity. I'm a member of 2 film unions, not just 1.
So Directors Guild and
IATSE.
Yeah, that's the union. I remember that's like those are coveted spaces. How do you get into those?
You have to apply, and that's the thing now too. IATSE just closed the doors now on their appointee selection. Yeah.
How does that work? Nobody else can get in?
Correct.
So what's going to replace it? How are people going to get protected if they're not a part of it?
Well, you're shit out of luck. But those who are in are great.
How does that? I don't understand the fairness of that.
What happens? I think IATSE's reached their maximum total. Like we've got a lot of members now, a lot of permittees, so they've just shut the doors now. Now I think what happened, especially since the pandemic, a lot of people were like, you know what? I've been hearing about this film world. And so that's what's happened. So now people have kind of caught on.
Yes.
And then this is what I've been trying to tell young black people. I've been telling young black people for the longest time, since I met you back in the early 2000s. I try to get black people involved in the film world because it frees up your time and it pays you for your time.
Right. And today you were talking about breaking, generational curses with wealth. Real estate and all of these different things. And this is what your career has allowed you to think about now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I'd followed the advice my parents had, I'd be shit out of luck right now. I'd probably still be in Rexdale with like 3 kids, divorced, living in some kind of 1-bedroom apartment in Kipling Avenue.
Stop the madness.
I'm serious.
the profile is crazy. And
No,
that's
but
really
like that was the thing. That was because like when I thought like let me work in a film, everyone laughed at me. Oh, only white people do that. I got that speech. Like what do you? And I would go to family functions and my mom would introduce me as John the Dreamer. He wants to work in movies. But I was laughed at. I was people were like, oh, come on.
wow. Yeah,
Why don't you get a real job and wake up?
The real job talk. I hate that job talk. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm honest. My parents were not happy about me working in film.
Oh, I'm sure. Our parents would definitely say get a real job. So I'm going to wind it down because we have about 5 minutes left. But I wanted to ask you, what surprises you most about life and about the career you've made for yourself?
I guess it's back to the Masimba thing. I'm surprised I'm here so long still. I should have died a long time ago.
You should have died? You can't die.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you couldn't have died because then we wouldn't be here having this conversation. A very important conversation.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And I look at it that way too. And that's why the whole Masimba thing kind of shakes me up because it shook me up too because it's kind of like I didn't expect that. You know? And that's what made me realize how swift this whole thing can end. It can end in an instant. And you better not be taking it for granted. If anything, the whole Masimba thing really, really made me, like aware of what I was doing and how I was doing it.
So in that way, his death was a gift to you, even though it was a point of sadness and grief.
Yeah, in a sort of way. It was just, honestly, I look at it too as Masimba, like I call it Masimba-isms. Because him and I were tight, so like I walk around my apartment and stuff like I see a record pop out and I'm like, I didn't leave that record out. So I think it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like the ghost of Christmas past type of thing. Like Masimba's walked through and was like, I'll just leave this out for him, maybe we'll see it.
Well, so that's not surprising. I mean, he is undying love, the source of undying love. He called himself Son of Soul, the source of undying love. And what you just said speaks to that. So he's still here. He's ever present, right? What is the best advice you've never gotten?
That's a tough one. I was thinking about that because I don't get a lot of advice.
Yeah. The best advice you have.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. That's a tough one. The best advice I've never gotten.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you wish you had gotten advice for, but you never did. So you made the mistakes and you have to learn.
Oh, okay. I guess it goes back to the whole paperwork thing. That's what I drill now into everyone. My son, young recording artist, now be thorough in your paperwork and your documentation. Don't ever take it for granted that you'll be looked out for, regardless of who you're working with. And make sure and be diligent. Read your paperwork. I'm constantly I make sure if I haven't before I would never make a fuss about things, but as I got older, I was like, I'm gonna let the union do the heavy lifting for me. So now, anytime I got an issue, I just write a letter to the union. And they handle it. It comes back nice. Yeah, and that's nice to know that I have that type of safety net and a professional safety net like that too. That the entitlement of my job is covered by you.
Yeah, I think when I asked you about that, you said something about union equals job security specifically. Yeah, that's big. What do you still thirst for, John Bronski?
Sleep. It's one thing I don't get enough of. It's kind of weird. I guess more success. Not more success. I would like to make some really good art. That's one thing I've never. It's kind of weird. Like making a record is art. I guess so. Even at a record label aspect of it, because you're still kind of calculating things. and you want it to be nice and you want it to be perfect. So, yeah, I would like to do something cinematic like that and have it be recognized, I guess.
That's amazing. So do you want to be reached? How would people reach you?
That's the thing. I'm kind of like the Kaiser Soze of hip hop, right? So it's like you don't get at me, I get at you.
I love it. I mean, they can follow you on Instagram, and
get at me Instagram if I see I'm also studious SOB. I was just looking at a book the other day called The Practice of Looking, and I was trying to explain that to people. Like, I know what I'm looking for, so if I see it in you, you'll hear from me.
I like that. The practice of looking.
Yeah, hold on.
I love that idea because that is something that people do not understand.
What happened was that because of the whole Rogers thing that happened last week, I was trying to make a point that my 2006 OCAD textbook.
Yes, it's upside down, but I get it. The practice of looking
describes it all. So there's a glossary in the back of like terms that we now use in terms of film production and in terms of media culture. And one of them is synergy. And I call it the synergy technology. And what happened last week Friday in Rogers was a synergy. So that's where you put too much faith in one technical application, not realizing that if it fails, where's your plan B? And I don't think people understand. There's no plan C or D to the internet. It's just the internet. And people I don't think people really grasp that. You know what I mean? There's no internet too. There's only the internet. So even if the whole internet were to go, what are you going to do? There's no plan B. And so that's the whole thing of practice of looking. It's understanding, looking at technology and going, this is great, but what's the problem?
Right. That
and that's primarily what we. Yeah. So that's what I do. That's what we do for film. We actually look at situation. Oh, that's great, but I see a problem here, and here. How do we fix that if this happens?
That's crazy. Wow. I thank you so much for being here with us today. I know somebody was asking. They keep going back to the Sim Sima story. I don't think they understand. Maybe they thought you made the beat. What's the story about the Sim Sima beat? He made it? ?
No, I was studio boss, so I was in charge. So when you run a studio, you got to shut the doors and close the windows.
Yeah, and that's where you get the whole. That's where you get the whole production management side, where you like get the people in line. So that's how your music and your film career kind of like made sense for you. Yeah,
it's kind of intertwined. I'm the guy. I'm the ruthless motherfucker at the door. I am the spook who sat by the door. It's you should look it up.
I like it. Well, everybody, thank you for watching the Cocktale Hour presented by Business Takeout. We hope we inspired some Black wealth and Black entrepreneurship today. I am your host, L.A. Wade, and we had an intimate yet sobering conversation with the legend, the godfather of Canadian hip-hop, Mr. John Bronski. If you want to sponsor or advertise on the show, feel free to hit us up. It was a pleasure. Thank you, John. You inspired us today.
Thanks for having me. This was inspiring.
So my name is Amir. I'm one of the owners of Bukan, also one of the chefs at Bukan. When I think about Bukan, it's more of a personal, spiritual thing. So Bukan is it's fire. What comes to my mind was fire, the energy that comes with it. It touched me from the beginning. I love cooking. I've been cooking since I was like 5 years old, beside my mom, my grandma. My grandma was the first one that taught me how to cook. I enjoy it. It's my passion. I love it. I do love cooking.
So I'm one of the owners of Bukan. Bukan been around beginning of 2020, I'll say January 1st. That was the time that we were born, in the day of Haitian independence. That was a dream, and me and Amir, we've been dreaming about this for a long time, and we wanted to open a restaurant where people can come in and have a good time, because there's a lot of stress out there, right? So we wanted people to come in, and as soon that they opened that door, and all the stress and everything else just gone.
I am Francine. I'm the restaurant manager here at Boucan. I told them basically what my background was in HR, marketing, and public policy, and how I could help them during the pandemic. So what started out as like a 6-month contract became like a full-time permanent position within the restaurant. You have to have passion, you have to have drive, you have to also have fun.
What I like about Boucan, it's a family. They take you, they make your food look good and it's fresh.
Boucan, chef Lissat, ça qu'a fait. Vous êtes connaît, ça donne absolument plus pour manger haïtien dans Toronto. Une check Boucan, Boucan.to, Instagram, everything.
Hey, what's up? I've been coming to Boucan because first of all, it's my people's food. Second of all, I come for the legume. I love the legume. Best food in town, so I can't get enough of that.
I'm coming from Brampton, specifically my food. I love Haitian food. That's why I'm here. Yes. I'm just gonna sit in my car and eat my food.
Keeping my taste buds in mind, she ordered the shrimp fritai, and man, was she ever correct. It was absolutely delicious. I saw it coming towards me. The presentation was lovely. The flavors, everything about it was amazing. I love the little dumplings. They're literally like soft donuts. They just melt in your mouth.
This is our first time at Boucan. I actually saw a post in the Black Toronto group with the fish platter, and I showed it to my husband, and he said, let's go get some. So here we are. The food looks amazing. Service was absolutely great. Smells delicious. Looks good, and we want to support our community. So come on down.
It's all about the customers. It's not about me, because the customer is what makes the Boucan.
If you enjoy our programming and want to help support Black entrepreneurship, please donate today. www.businesstakeout.com/donate.